I wanted to show you a little bit more of my home and the artwork. That white mask, by the way, is a mask of John Legassi, the first musician that we worked with when we started to do musical poetry. Dale was a Ringling student who put this together for me after I came back from a trip to Panama. And this is a poster for Fairfield Porter's work. My son curates that show around the country, and he did a very good book on Fairfield that kind of made his career. So we like to keep it here as a reminder of that breakthrough. I like his work too. And here's a little bit of Blanche Bernstein, who was crazy about clowns and did hundreds and hundreds of paintings of them. I love this pastel that she gave me. Up above is some of my own artwork. I call them soul prints. They're made by pressing your face against the Xerox machine. It's a wonderful way of entering the visual arts world if you're not a talented painter. They are eerie, aren't they? Maggie was a wonderful artist. She had to move to Miami just to make a living, but I liked her work from the start. There's something about it again. It was something brooding inside it that moved me. This abstract was by a friend of my daughter's. I've always liked it. It's called Smoke. It's a three-dimensional abstract. And down here is a little comic strip by another Ringling student. A little comment about love or the muse coming to visit and taking a little piece. Also, I like art like that. It's a kind of pop, but it has something serious going on underneath the pop. It's like opera, big and extravagant, but a golden thread inside it. And again, back to the wonderful pastels of Blanche. It's such a subtle, beautiful clown. And then back to my mother. This picture, by the way, was photographed by Bachrach, who was just starting out as a young photographer in Worcester and who was obviously drawn to my mother. I can see why. She was stunning as a young girl. We always thought she was beautiful as kids, but when we got older and we uncovered these pictures in some of the older albums, we realized how beautiful she really was as a young girl.
Well, let me say that today, when I happen to look at my grandson, and he's an only child, he's the son of my son Art, he has everything. I mean, he just literally has everything. You just can't imagine. In fact, when it comes time for a birthday, you don't know what to get the kid because he just has everything. We didn't have everything. You know, in terms of our clothes, they were always bought at the PX, so they were never cool looking, you know. We didn't have the tight jeans, we didn't have the nice t-shirts. It was always like Navy issue, or it was khaki pants and kind of military issue. And maybe some kids would think it was cool, but nobody in my school, you thought it was cool. They just, baggy pants, adjusted. So I endured that, you know, not much you can do about it. But as I got older and I had my own money, because I always had a job, my father made sure that we all worked, everybody worked. Whatever it was, as a shoe shine boy or as a newspaper boy. And then I caddied for a while. I worked at A&P stacking cans. I just hated working in those places. I mean, the caddying was okay, but after a while, I did make the money to buy myself one day. It's about the time that Elvis came out. And Elvis, when he hit, people made kind of fun of him now. He got fat in Vegas, and he kind of fell to pieces. But when he broke onto the scene, that sound was unlike any other sound that we had heard, or anybody had heard for that matter. He really moved the black sound into the white world. In fact, I remember that at the time, since most of the stuff we heard was on radio, there wasn't a lot of TV at the time, we didn't know if he was black or white. He had a sound, you know. There was a difference. It wasn't a black sound, but it sounded black. Is he black or white? Nobody knew, you know. Well, it was about that time I decided to buy myself a real outfit. So I went to White Plains. I'd been looking in this store. I don't know who they sold to. It was in the neighborhood where I used to go to the movies. And I bought myself a pair of powder blue peg pants with a big rise, you know, with a belt with way down below, a little skinny belt. And it had an inseam that was cut open, so there was dark navy blue inseam with dark navy blue saddle stitching down the side. They were outrageous. And I got myself a Mr. B shirt. I forget the color. I'm sure it was pretty outrageous too. And a jacket. I remember the jacket was a two-tone jacket. I thought I was the coolest thing in the world. I went home, and my parents, who were very conservative and very kind of, you know, middle of the road, didn't say a word to me. They always let me kind of go my own route in that, even though I was the only one to go to public schools. They let me go my own wild tangents. I wasn't a bad kid. I just had my idea as to what I wanted to do, and I would do it. And they kind of let me do it. They were good parents in that way. They were loving parents. And in that same way, about at the same time that I bought those pants, I wanted to get a car because I was getting to be a senior. You know, I think that was the next year that was coming up, 1956. Something. I got a senior in high school. I wanted a car. My dad tried to get me a sensible Dodge or something, and we went looking, and my artistic head took over, although I didn't see myself as an artist at the time. I was just a kid, you know. And I saw this old 39 Ford, like the kind you see in the Bonnie and Clyde movies. I had to have it. I don't know why. I wasn't a car buff, you know, and I didn't really know much about cars, but I wanted that car. And my dad said, "Oh, you're going to be nuts to have that car. It's way too old." And I said, "No, I have to have it," and I bought it. And then about a week later, the clutch gave, and my dad looked at me, and you know, so what could I do? I went out and I caddied some more, and I made the money, and I bought the clutch at Sears Roebuck. You know, it was such an old car, only place you could get it in those days. And I had a guy put it in for me down in the village, and that was the beginning of a new life. Because what I didn't know when I bought that car is it had a rear end that was very high gear ratio. It was called a 411 rear end, if I remember. A little tiny engine in the Ford. It wasn't a very big engine at all, you know. Little tiny V8. I don't know, maybe 80 horsepower, 90 horsepower, 60 horsepower, something like that. But it made that car move like a rocket, and I beat every kid in town with their fancy black and red, you know, Jimmy Dean Mercs and the Ford Furies and all those, whatever was going on at the time that was a hot car. This car, with that new clutch, would take off the line so fast that it would burn about 50 feet of rubber, and it would stay in first gear. It would just leave everything in the dust. And what happened is that every tough kid in town, they started to gun for me as to whether they wanted to take the car away from me or just beat me up for having a fast car. You know, I didn't expect that to happen. I just wanted, it was just fun. All of a sudden, I found out I had a fast car. So I didn't know what to do, and I just painted the car to look like a hot rod. Then I figured I might as well make it look like a hot rod, so I did. And I painted it powder blue again, just like my pants with dark blue, and I painted the engine. It was just a complete kind of Warhol creation. I had no idea what I was doing. But that just increased the desire of the toughs in town to get the car or to get me. It didn't make any difference. They just wanted to punch me for having a fast car. So I got rid of that car. The next year, I went off to college. I just sold the car to somebody, and I just got it off my back. It was one of the first lessons I had, that if you follow your imagination into the world of beauty, there are always those waiting to slap you down. They don't like that, you know, when you have some fun. So lesson number one, learn very well. There's a time when you become aware of the opposite sex. It didn't happen with me directly. You know, it wasn't any kind of a monumental event in any way like you see in the movies with people rushing towards each other on beaches and things like that. It must have been about 10 or 11, because I think about 6th grade, that's my kind of guess on the thing, 7th grade, something like that. One of the girls in the neighborhood said to me, "Let's play, there's a kissing game," something like that. It just came up in the course of conversation, called Post Office and Spin the Bottle. You know, it's fun. So I got together with some of the other guys and some of the other girls about my age, and we went into somebody's house and we played Spin the Bottle and Post Office. And I guess the bottle spun my way eventually, or I got something from the post office, however those things work. And I had my first kiss. It was a girl across the street. Her name was Ann O'Brien. I remember her. And the kiss was so tender and so passionate. There was no French kissing. It was just like two lips meeting. It just opened doors opened for me inside. I didn't know what to make of it. It was just a sensation that I had never had before. I would say it was like the sensation when I had my first poem came to me, you know. It just took you out of your body into some other place for a moment. And so that first kiss is one that I always remember, and it's never been duplicated, nor is that first poem ever duplicated when that door opens either. And all of a sudden you're standing in a world that is completely different from the mundane physical world that you were standing in just a few seconds before.